Mangwana ni Mwalelepo Fukenjani Class. Welcome to Africa. Good morning, your portal into Africa's potent stories. In today's updates, Zimbabwe unveils redesigned ZWG notes amid economic concerns, while the DRC faces political tensions as prosecutors seek the death penalty for Joseph Kabila. Niger turns to Russia for a landmark nuclear deal. Lagos communities battle devastating coastal erosion, and France returns King Toera's skull to Madagascar after 128 years. In economic news, Zimbabwe reinstates its maize import ban. Kenya races to secure a U.S. trade deal, and we spotlight Africa's cheapest fuel markets. Plus, stay tuned for South Africa Report with Arrie Hougaard. Watch us on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, 1up2.com, NTV Africa, and Network Media Hub on YouTube. My name is Ashwin Betty. This is AGM. Top stories shortly.
Mornings just got better, Namibia. From the latest headlines to the hottest trends, we're bringing you the conversations that matter.
That's right. Bright minds, bold opinions, and a touch of morning magic. This is your daily dose of energy.
So grab a cup and join in on the conversation every weekday morning at 8 o'clock with Smell the Coffee, hosted by Diana Master and Aina Riza Quayo.
In our top stories, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has announced plans to introduce redesigned ZWG banknotes, replacing the initial series labeled defiled, in an effort to restore public confidence, reports New Zimbabwe's Alois Vinga. Introduced in April 2024 as a lasting solution to currency challenges, the ZWG quickly faced setbacks, including a sharp 43% devaluation in September last year that questioned its gold-backed credibility. Shortages persist, especially in rural areas, forcing some regions to rely on the South African rand for smaller transactions. Despite widespread skepticism, RBZ Governor Dr. John Mushayawanu confirmed that production of new notes is already at an advanced stage, clarifying that the move does not signal a new currency but routine modernization aligned with global practices. The redesigned notes promise improved durability and quality, with a rollout date to be announced later. Critics on social media, however, view the redesign as an attempt to mask earlier policy failures. Market watchers have urged RBZ to provide detailed information to avoid further speculation and uncertainty surrounding Zimbabwe's future monetary stability. Moving on. Prosecutors in the Democratic Republic of Congo's military court have requested the death penalty for former President Joseph Kabila, who faces treason charges over alleged links to the Rwanda-backed M23 armed group, reports Melissa Sherman of Radio France International. Kabila's party, the PPRD, denounced the case as a political decision disguised as justice, with its secretary Emmanuel Ramazani Shadari labeling it unfair and hateful. Kabila, on trial in absentia, rejected the charges as arbitrary, accusing the courts of being tools of oppression. Opposition leader Moise Katumbi also condemned the trial, calling it a cynical political maneuver designed to silence a key figure. The accusations include plotting to overthrow President Felix Tshisekedi, homicide, torture, and colluding with the Congo River Alliance, M23's political arm. M23 and its executive secretary Benjamin Mbonimpa denied any ties to Kabila, branding the government's claims part of a malevolent strategy. Kabila, who ruled from 2001 to 2019, remains outside the DRC, while tensions escalate as the mineral-rich East continues to suffer decades-long armed conflict. In our next story, Russia has proposed building Niger's first nuclear power plant under a cooperation agreement with Rosatom, seeking to strengthen its influence in uranium-rich West Africa, reports Paul Melly of Chatham House. The plan follows Niger's decision to nationalize operations previously run by French nuclear giant Orano, ending decades of uranium exports to France without local benefits. Under the New Deal, Moscow promises investment in energy and medical applications while training Nigerian specialists, a move viewed as part of its broader strategy to displace Western influence. The project, if realized, would be West Africa's first nuclear plant, though financial, technical and security hurdles make its success uncertain. France, historically reliant on Niger's uranium, failed to share nuclear expertise, leaving the country dependent on coal power and electricity imports from Nigeria. Following strained relations after the 2023 coup, Niger blocked Orano's exports and detained its local director, deepening disputes. While feasibility remains unclear, Russia's proposals resonate with Nigerians frustrated by years of perceived exploitation under French control, reshaping the region's geopolitical landscape. In our next story, rising ocean surges have devastated Lagos coastal communities, washing away homes, farmland and graves, while promised support from Commonwealth leaders stalls, reports Bena Ezemalu for Reuters. In Upper King, one of Lagos's last indigenous settlements, residents struggle to preserve ancestral lands now swallowed by the sea, with local chief Abimbola Iowun lamenting the loss of family graves and homes. A 2022 Journal of African Earth Sciences report blames deepwater port developments for worsening erosion, with 80% of Lagos shoreline already lost in 5 decades. Environmentalists accuse government-backed projects, including the Dangote refinery and massive dredging for deep-sea ports, of pushing seawater into vulnerable villages. Despite Lagos State acknowledging climate risks, activists like Akibonde Oluwafeni argue that the Commonwealth's Living Lands Charter, adopted in 2022, has failed to protect affected communities due to its non-binding nature and lack of accountability measures. With coconut farms wiped out and entire villages disappearing, residents fear displacement, while rising seas and development-driven surges continue eroding Nigeria's coastline at alarming speed. And France has formally returned the skull of King Toera, a Saka Lava ruler killed by the colonial troops in 1897, to Madagascar during a ceremony at the French Culture Ministry, reports Hugh Schofield for BBC. Alongside Toera's skull, remains of 2 other court members were also handed back, marking the first restitution under a new French law designed to fast-track the return of human remains taken during colonization. King Toera was killed when French forces invaded the Menabe Kingdom, and his head was sent to Paris, stored for over a century at the Museum of Natural History. While DNA tests could not conclusively confirm the skull's identity, a traditional Sakalava spirit medium verified it as the monarch's. Madagascar's culture minister Vola Miranti Donamara described the return as a significant gesture, calling the absence an open wound for over 120 years. France's culture minister acknowledged the skulls were obtained in violation of human dignity, highlighting growing calls for restitution as thousands more colonial-era remains remain in French collections. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we'll be joined by Arrie Hougaard as he delivers the South Africa report. But prior to that, it's the weather. Rising crime, taxi violence spikes in Western Cape, and Julius Malema has been found guilty of hate speech. You will also be delivering a Capitec Bank update, as well as 34 new political parties registered as IEC gears up for the 2026 local government elections. Please take it away.
Julius Malema found guilty by the Equality Court, and that is for hate speech. So that is not good news, and it is related to statements that was made a few months ago, that were a few years ago. So we'll see if he's going to appeal that, but at least it is in a process. I think important for South Africa is that the Stats South Africa, they delivered the statistics of crime. We don't want to talk about crime and statistics too much. It's an indication of what's happening in South Africa, so it's not good. It's there is indication that crime is continued to plague South Africa, and it's got to do with 1.5 million incidents in households. There's been 60,000 murders the last year, so there's lots happening, unfortunately, related to that. And the policing needs to be stepped up, and there's a new national policing policy that started in May 2025. So that is a problem at the moment for South Africa. So there's 34% unemployment in South Africa, so that's not good. So that doesn't help South Africa at all at the moment. It is also, in the last 5 years, 2.6 million people of households experienced housebreaking. So the statistics are not good, but let's be positive. We try to look at it in a positive way and see if all these things that's happening can be turned around, with the police being more effective as well. But unemployment doesn't help as well. What doesn't help is what's happening on the Cape Flats also with taxis, unfortunately. The taxi industry, there's been violent crimes, and there's been drivers that was killed. So there's a collapse in the peace efforts in the industry. There's two role players there, Ashwin. It is the Cape Amalgamated Taxi Association, CATA they call them, then the Cape Organization for Democratic Taxi Association, CODETA. So there's been six over the last 5 days, 9 drivers killed and 6 injured. So that's not good at all. There's a big component of the transport in Cape Town. 75% of the commuters travel by taxi in Cape Town. And there's 16,500 officially registered taxis in Cape Town. Well, in South Africa, there's more than 200,000. So it's a massive industry that creates lots of money. So it's worth about 100 billion South African rand annually. So it is lots at stake. So hopefully they can find each other there. And then, yes, I mentioned by the banks, it is Capitec Bank that is now officially South Africa's most valuable bank. It took over from First Rand and also from Standard Bank. So it's a big accolade for a bank that started in 1997. It started with low-income deposits and also unsecured lending to clients, and now became a bank that's got 24 million active clients. They've got about 13 million of those clients on the app. There's the app, and so they're using it in that way. And it's not only for low-income people. It's it's clients with all income groups that's at the bank at the moment. The big indication of how successful they are, their shares up 16% from the beginning of the year, and it's up 213% since 2002. So Arrie Hougaard was the CEO, and he retired a month ago. He did well. So the bank is really doing well. Just also briefly on current affairs, yes, it's elections coming up in 2026. It's regional elections. There's many parties at the moment. There's 240 registered parties in South Africa now. Lots of them joined the last few months. So it's lots of regional as well. So everybody wants to try and get into parliament, but there's just 18 officially represented at the moment in parliament. So there's lots of new parties trying to get their hand on a ballot paper and maybe get into politics. So that's all leading up to 2026 regional elections that's coming up. So that's all happening at the moment, Ashwin, in current news in South Africa.
All right, Arrie, let's get straight into your sport. Women's Springboks target quarter-finals crucial clash against Italy at the 2025 Rugby World Cup is upcoming. And of course, a Golf Boost 2026 SA Open winner is set to qualify for the US Masters.
Yes, so nice to talk about the sport. Always nice to talk about a World Cup, the Women's World Cup. In previous years, the South African women's team were not that competitive, but we saw what the women's soccer team, Banyana can do in AFCON and winning that. And all of a sudden, the last 2 years, they improved immensely. So that's a logo, the Women's England 2025 World Cup. South Africa off to a good start, beating Brazil in their first game, 66 points to 6. The big test is now coming up this coming weekend, and the eighth man scoring there try. She's one of my heroes in the team. I just love the way she plays. It's Asesa Hele. She's next to a Libby Janssen from Rensburg. So they've got good players in this team. So what's happening, it's 4:30 on Sunday. South Africa play against Italy. If they can beat Italy, they're into the quarterfinals. As that would be a massive achievement. They still also need to play France. They will go into the quarterfinals because France beat Italy by 24 points to 0. And if they do go through to the quarterfinals, it will be tough. They will play one of the top 2 teams in Group C. That will be either defending champions New Zealand or Ireland. But let's first see if they can get past it on Sunday. So lots to look forward to. Then also briefly, the South African Open will be at Stellenbosch in South Africa. That is from the end of February 2026. So it is 26 February to the 1st of March. And the big news there is that the winner of the tournament always get an invite to the British Open. But now there's one big invite added. And that invite is to play in the US Masters. So a winner of the South African Open can play in that tournament. That's the most difficult tournament major to get into. So that's the Masters in the USA. So lots to play for. That is the South African Open. That's next year in Stellenbosch.
All right, Arrie, now we end your contribution with the flower season, which is drawing crowds as thousands flock to Namakwaland for the breathtaking spring blooms.
Yes, it's an area that I just love, Ashwin. It's in Namakwaland. It's a big area from just outside Cape Town, let's say, well, hour and a half north or 2 hours north it starts. That's in the Namakwaland flowers. I lived there in Springbok when I was 4 years old till I was 10 years old. So I grew up seeing but I saw lots of photos and videos. It's been a great season. It's winter rain, of course, and if there's early winter rain, it looks like that. You have tourists that go out and take photographs, and the whole region just is brilliant colors, and especially the orange of the Namakwaland daisy. There you can see the Namakwaland daisy, and that's not AI, that's not the Photoshop. That's really what it looks like. So area that is normally quite gray just turns into all these beautiful colors. So that is from July, August, and September. So visitors in Namibia, they can still go down in that area over the border into Namakwaland and see that flowers. There's lots of options. There's the Skulpad Clover Reserve. There's coastal route as well. It's unique to see it. The flowers next to the coast goes all the way from Van Reinstorp, Calvinia, all the way to Springbok. Springbok, a unique place, founded in 1862. It was first Springbok Fontein, and then it changed to Springbok. And it is also lots of flowers there. It was built around copper, also there, pounds around them. So visit Namakwaland, visit the flowers. It's a brilliant sight. Flowers do make us happy. So it is good for the soul to see, to go and have a look at beautiful flowers, and that all in nature. So that is South African news and entertainment news from the site. Blessings for everyone. Bye-bye.
All right, cheers, Arrie. Certainly looks gorgeous, that side in Namakwaland. This is Africa Good Morning. We're going to swing into the economic news. Now, Zimbabwe has reinstated a ban on maize imports after achieving a senior agriculture ministry official explained that the move seeks to protect local farmers while maintaining food security. Improved rainfall significantly boosted production, reversing last year's sharp decline caused by an El Nino-induced drought that forced Zimbabwe to import maize, including genetically modified varieties. Permanent Secretary Obert Jiri stated that authorities are assessing supplies daily to ensure national needs are met. Zimbabwe, which consumes consumes about 1.8 million metric tons of maize annually, has seen production plummet to around 800,000 tons in 2023-24, down from 2.3 million 2 years prior. The shortfall prompted a temporary suspension of import restrictions to avoid shortages. With the success of this year's harvest, combined with initiatives like the Fumvudza smallholder scheme, the country now has sufficient stocks. However, independent analysts warn that Zimbabwe's agricultural sector, employing about 70% of the population, remains vulnerable to climate extremes. The government continues promoting drought-tolerant crops like sorghum and millet to strengthen food security, aiming to reduce reliance on imports and prevent a repeat of costly emergency purchases in previous years. Kenya has launched a last-minute trade talk with the United States in a bid to secure a reciprocal agreement before the African Growth and Opportunity Act expires, according to Solomon Ekanem. AGOA has long provided African countries with duty-free access to U.S. markets, benefiting industries such as textiles and agriculture. Kenya's Trade Cabinet Secretary Lee Kenya Njui led the high-level delegation to Washington, seeking to safeguard market access, attract U.S. investment, and position Kenya as a continental leader in future bilateral deals. U.S. Trade Representative Ambassador Jameson Greer welcomed the talks, emphasizing Washington's commitment to building a stronger and more balanced partnership. Kenya exported $737.3 million worth of goods to the U.S. in 2024, primarily apparel, coffee, and tea, making the U.S. one of its most critical markets. Nairobi fears losing these benefits if AGOA lapses, particularly after President Donald Trump imposed a 10% tariff on Kenyan exports while sparing it from harsher duties faced by other nations. The proposed agreement aims to stabilize investment flows and protect Kenya's competitive edge while shaping broader African trade strategies. The outcome could redefine U.S.-Africa relations and serve as a blueprint for other countries seeking long-term market security. And in the last of our stories, fuel prices continue to play a critical role in shaping Africa's economies, driving transportation, food production, and industrial activity, according to Business Insider Africa. Lower fuel prices ease logistical costs, reduce production overheads, and boost household purchasing power, allowing families to spend more on essentials like food, education, and healthcare. Industries such as manufacturing, agriculture, and construction benefit significantly, gaining a competitive edge both locally and globally. Global Petrol Prices reports that Libya remains Africa's cheapest fuel market at $0.028 per litre, followed by Angola, Algeria, Egypt, and Nigeria, where recent investments in refining have driven down costs. Compared to July, Africa's average petrol price dropped slightly from $1.29 to $1.28 per litre, while Libya, Angola, and Sudan maintained stable prices. Algeria, Egypt, and Tunisia saw slight increases, whereas Nigeria, Ethiopia, Liberia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo recorded declines. Affordable fuel also helps control inflation and strengthens regional trade competitiveness, with Nigeria emerging as a key supplier to neighboring nations. As African governments invest in energy independence through massive refining and gas projects, sustaining low fuel prices is expected to remain central to fostering economic growth, stability, and inclusive development across the continent. .com as well. Keeping in mind, on oneup2.com, if you click the echo icon, you have access to not just this episode, but other NTV programs. So oneup2.com, where primetime is anytime, and of course, Network Media Hub on YouTube, as well as NTV Africa on YouTube. My name is Ashwin Bedi. This has been Africa Good Morning. We return tomorrow with more stories from broader Africa, as well as our visual news stories from Namibia from the week. Siraja Kanaka.